Okay, welcome back, ladies and gents. Here we're going to go ahead and look at dilutions. Dilutions are an essential laboratory skill to have because we have to dilute things all the time when we need to make solutions that aren't already available. Let's take a look at this first problem here. What volume of a 5 molar stock solution is needed to make 150 milliliters of a 2.5 molar diluted solution? All right. So already you can tell that we need to do a dilution here, and we have to use calculation method in order to figure out what volume we're going to need in order to dilute it. So always remember that the formula for a dilution is M1 V1 is equal to M2 V2. Remember, big M stands for molarity and V stands for volume. The side with the ones on it, this is the information for the stock solution or the original solution, the stuff that you're going to dilute. The twos are reference to the solution that you need to make, or the needed solution, okay? It's the new stuff. Whenever you're going to do a multivariable problem like this, it's always a good idea to list the variables that you know, list what you don't know so that you can understand what variable the problem is asking you for. Okay, so we have an M1, a V1, an M2, and a V2. All right, let's look back at the problem and see if we can figure out what information about the stock is available. Okay, it says what volume is needed of a 5 molar stock solution. Okay, well, it says 5 molar stock solution. Well, that means that M1 is equal to 5 moles per liter, or 5 molar. Okay, in fact, for these problems, it's probably a good idea for this particular one just to leave it in big M. Okay, did it give us any information about the volume of the stock solution? Okay, it actually didn't, because it's asking what volume of the stock solution. So we don't know what that is. Okay, we need to figure out how much of that we need in order to dilute. Okay, alrighty, remember the twos pertain to the solution that we're trying to make. Did it give us any information about the solution that we need to make? Well, it says is needed to make 150 milliliters, so we do have a volume of 150 milliliters. That's how much new solution we need to make, and it did give us a molarity of 2.5 molar. Alright, so overall we need to figure out how much of the original stock solution am I going to need to pull out in order to make this new solution here. Okay, let's go ahead and figure that out. Again, M1 V1 is equal to M2 V2. We're solving for V1, so we need to use algebra to get V1 by itself, and that's actually pretty simple. M1 and V1 are attached by multiplication. How do we undo multiplication? We do it with division, so we're going to divide both sides by M1. That means V1 is going to be equal to M2 V2 over M1. Okay. Now let's go ahead and plug in. M2 was equal to 2.5 molar. V2 is equal to 150 milliliters. Now, you're probably wondering, Mr. Conklin, molarity is in terms of moles per liter, not moles per milliliter. We can actually wait to convert it back to liters at the end of the question, if we need to. The question didn't specifically say whether or not to use milliliters or liters in this case, so you can actually leave it as milliliters if you want to. The reason why you can leave it that way is because M1 is 5 molar. And look what happens to those big M's. They cross-cancel, leaving us with a unit for volume. Okay. And again, the question didn't specify whether or not to leave it in liters or milliliters. So we can actually leave it in milliliters if we want to, but I'll show both of them. Okay, now it's calculator time. We have 2.5 times 150 divided by 5. That comes out to be 75 milliliters. Okay, So what this is telling us is that we need to go into the lab and take out 75 milliliters of the stock solution and then add enough water to get it up to the 150 mils, all right? If you wanted to get this to liters, just divide by 1,000, okay? Because there are 1,000 milliliters to 1 liter, which will be 0.075 liters, if it asks for the liters. But this is just fine, leaving it in milliliters. Alright, let's take a look at this one. If a 2.5 milliliter of a 2 molar stock solution is diluted to a new volume of 5.0 milliliters, what is the new molarity? Okay, so already that word diluted is in there, and it's hinting that we're going to need to use M1V1 is equal to M2V2. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can pick out the information for the stock original solution, and if we can pick out the information for the new or targeted solution. So I always start by writing down my variables over here. Until you become an expert at this, it's always a good idea to do this right here. In fact, if the AP reader sees that, they're gonna know how you're thinking. All right. So if a 2.5 milliliter of a 2 molar stock solution, that right there is all the information for the stock. Okay. 2 molars and then 2.5 milliliters. Okay. Is diluted to a new volume of 5.0 milliliters. Okay, I see this word new here, or something to indicate that this is not part of the stock solution. This is what we're trying to get to. So our volume for that is 5.0 milliliters, and it didn't give us any information about the molarity of the new solution. In fact, that's what it's asking for. What is the molarity or the new molarity? So this is what we're solving for. We're solving for M2 this time. Let's go ahead and use algebra to manipulate this equation right here to solve for M2. M2 and V2 are attached by multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? With division. So we need to get the M2 by itself. We'll divide both sides by V2. Those will cancel. M2 is equal to M1 V1 over V2. Let's go ahead and switch this around so that the variable we're solving for is on the left, and then our work will be on the right. Okay, now it's all a plug and chug game. We've got 2 molar for M1. V1 is 2.5 milliliters. Again, you can leave it in milliliters this time because, as you're going to see, V2 is 5.0 milliliters. And look, let me make that a little bit more readable. And as you can see, what's going to happen to those milliliters? They go bye-bye, okay? Alright, I'm going to continue it down here. Let's go ahead and use our calculator. 2 times 2.5 divided by 5. This new solution is 1 molar. Okay, so we took a 2 molar solution and diluted it down to 1 molar. Alright, ladies and gents, go ahead and work on the 2 practice problems, and then for the last video we're going to describe how to make a diluted solution.